Good morning. I want to give a special welcome this morning to Sean O'Connor, who's visiting us from Iowa. Good to have you here. Always a pleasure to see you, Sean. There are three secrets to life that can lead to a successful, stress-free living. And I'm going to share those secrets with you. The first one is patience. The second one is you have patience. You have all the patience there is. If you're ever feeling frustrated or impatient for some reason, it's not that you've run out of patience, it's simply that you're not drawing on the patience that you have. And the third secret is, the first one, patience. The second, you have patience. The third one is be patient. You know, we live in a world that is very fast and furious, sometimes chaotic, sometimes confusing. And oftentimes our patience gets lost. It's become a rarity. It's like patience doesn't take a primary position in our lives. And one of the most patient people I've ever met in my life is my cousin Ozzy's girlfriend, Tilly Lindquist. Ozzy and Tilly have been going together for 11 years, and of those 11 years, she has been waiting for him to pop the big question. She will subtly make hints that they should get married. And the other night, we went out to a Chinese restaurant. When it came time to order, Ozzy asked Tilly, "How do you like your rice? Would you like it white? Would you like it brown? Would you like it fried?" Tilly reached across the table and took Ozzy's hand. And she said, "Ozzy, I like my rice thrown." Takes a little while for that one to sink in, but you know, they say you should never explain a joke, but sometimes you just have to. Either that or my sense of humor is so far off base that I don't tune in with you anymore. Anyway, patience. As I said before, we live in a world that is very fast and sometimes confusing. And we've come to the point where when we want something, we want it right now. Well, the ancient Chinese philosophy called the Tao states that there is a way things happen, a way things unfold, the way everything evolves and grows. In unity, we call that divine order. Divine order simply says that there are universal principles and there are spiritual laws in effect that governs how everything happens in our world. They say that if gravity were varied by 1/1,000,000th of a percent, that we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be able to live on this planet. Divine order is everything. In Ecclesiastes, a book in the Bible, it says there is a time for everything. Everything that happens in accordance with divine order. Now, what I'm saying is that there is a system, there is an order to the universe, there is a way things happen. So if things aren't happening in your life, if you're pursuing a dream or a desire of some sort and it just doesn't seem to be coming into fruition, or if you want to change something about yourself but it just doesn't seem to be happening, that doesn't mean that that's a stop sign. You can't do it, you're not good enough, and to give up. It simply means that it takes time. Every species on this earth exercises more patience than human beings. Have you ever seen a cat, when it comes upon a prey, it spots the prey and it freezes, and it waits. And then it takes one slow step and another slow step. And if what if it's going after shows any indication of fear or awareness of its presence, it freezes again and it waits patiently. All of nature does that. We human beings are the only ones who become impatient, and it seems like the faster things go, the faster we want things to go. Now, a good illustration of this is about King Robert of Scotland. England invaded Scotland. King Robert lost his kingdom, he was run out of his castle, and he had to take refuge in a faraway cave. As he was sitting there, he was depressed, he was worn out, he felt defeated, and he wanted to give up. But he also observed a spider trying to spin a web in the cave. And the spider would work very diligently to get the framework of the web all put in place, and then a wind would come rushing through the cave and destroy it. The spider would wait for the wind to die down, and then it would begin again. And the same thing happened. The wind would come through and destroy the web. Well, as King Robert watched this, he was inspired by the patience and the persistence of the spider. And as it continued on, it finally found the conditions that were just right. It built the framework, is able to reinforce it, and it could withstand the strongest winds. So King Robert thought to himself, if that spider has that kind of patience and has that kind of persistence, surely I do too. And he said, I need to be patient with my return to my homeland, and I need to be persistent, but it has to be at my own time and with my own process. He returned, took back Scotland, and English recognized Scottish independence. Now, as I said before, we live in a world that is chaotic and confusing at times. It is very, very fast, and the commercial world caters to our impatience and our need for immediate gratification. We can get almost anything we want, anytime we want. We have fast food. We have one-hour services of every kind you can imagine. In World War II, when a soldier went overseas and wrote a letter back home, it would take maybe 2 or 3 weeks for that letter to be received. Today, a message can be sent and received through text or email or what's some of the other things? Instagram, I don't know. I'm still writing letters. But thank you. That message can be received in seconds. It's absolutely amazing. When the computer that I have, it's faster than anything I've ever experienced, and I was the last one to get a computer in this church, believe me. Christine Garvey came in and was telling me about this newfangled contraption that was like a typewriter, but it was greater. It was like a typewriter and a TV, and it could store stuff, and I said, it's a passing fancy. I'm not spending my money on that. Eventually, the staff all got computers, and I was still on my IBM Selectric, happy as could be, until I discovered what I was missing out on. Now I've got a computer that is super fast. It's one of the new Apple models, but every once in a while, it slows down. And when it slows down, a little rotating orb on the screen is there to remind you that it's tired and it doesn't want to work. It only lasts 2 or 3 minutes, but when that happens, I get impatient. I throw a little fit. And I hate to tell you this, it doesn't go any further, please. Shut the camera down for this moment. I actually verbally abuse my computer. I call it names, and sometimes not so nice names, all because I have to wait a couple more minutes than I normally do. It is really kind of insane that we're in this fast world, yet sometimes it just doesn't seem to be fast enough. Whether we're talking about global politics, or we're talking about slow-moving traffic, or lines that never seem to happen to move, and we all have a bit of impatience with us because our culture in this country kind of imbues us with that feeling that things just aren't going like we want them to go. 90% of the experience we have on this earth is with other people. That's a huge majority of our lives. Now that also means that 90% of all the frustration we experience comes from other people. And the reason we get frustrated with other people, quite simply, is because they aren't the way we want them to be. Sometimes they say things we wish they wouldn't say. They do things we wish they wouldn't do. They just aren't the person that we think they should be, and so we become impatient with them. I'm especially learning this lesson now. I hang out a lot with my 4-year-old grandson, and patience is a huge thing. And I don't know who's teaching who, because it's very difficult to get him to sit down and really listen to instructions. The other day I was trying to teach him how to bat a ball because he's going into T-ball. And before I could even get the bat up, he took it from me like he knew how to do it, and he just went over and started swinging around like he didn't care if he hit the ball or not. But it's patience with other people. And we have to understand that everybody is on their unique and individual path. We're all different. We're all facing different issues. We all have problems and challenges that we face. We all have people in our lives that seem to push our buttons, and they step on our toes, and they disregard any courtesies when it comes to interchange. But everybody is a part of the divine order. Everything that happens has meaning. Everything that happens has a reason. And if somebody starts to irritate you, you have a choice. You can separate yourself from them. You can separate yourself from all people. You can cause a distance between yourself and somebody else. You can find a little frustration-free room and live there all by yourself, and you never have to deal with people again. But the other option is to accept everybody unconditionally and just know that what is going on in their life might be a mystery to you, but something is happening. They are moving forward on their unique and individual path of life, and they're dealing with some issues that are based on what life has given them and the spiritual awareness or the conscious awareness that they have at the present moment. People aren't problems, but problems do come up, and we can manage those problems simply with a little patience. Now, the greatest area of patience that we need is patience with ourselves. You know, many of us were raised in a religious background, and that imposed upon us ideal that we weren't as good as we should be. Some even said that we were born sinners, we're unworthy in the eyes of God, that we were shameful by nature. And that's very hard to shake off if you've heard that from an authoritative voice, you know, week after week after week after week. But as it says in 1 Corinthians, that was then, those were the childish ways. Put away the childish ways and open yourself up to a new spiritual awareness where you recognize that there is absolutely nothing wrong with you. You're on your unique and individual path. You're facing your issues. You have got problems, but you're always moving forward. You're always going to a point of higher good. If you're facing a problem or a challenge right now in your life, and you think that there's no way out of it, you think that it'll never end, that is not true. It will move past, and you will go forward. So be kind to yourself. Treat yourself unconditionally, loving. There was a man who looked over his fence and he saw his neighbor garden. And the neighbor was pulling up his vegetables and picking his fruit. And the guy was so inspired by the neighbor's garden, he decided to create one of his own. So he goes to the store where they sell seeds. He looked at all the pictures in front of the packages. He got the seeds that he wanted. He went home and he planted them in his garden. Well, a couple of days later, the sprouts began to come up. But they didn't match the picture on the package. So the man ran out and he put out all the sprouts, planted new seeds, waited a couple of days, and the same thing happened. He came to the conclusion he just wasn't meant to have a garden, only because he didn't know the timing of plants, vegetables, and fruit. In a small village in China, and this is one of my favorite stories, and I believe it is a true story, small village in China, a stranger came through, and he was peddling seeds for a Chinese bamboo. And he told the people, these seeds, when planted, will grow 80 feet in the air in 6 weeks. Well, all the farmers around bought the seeds. They were so excited because they were going to get rich off their bamboo crop. They went home, they planted the seeds, they nurtured the ground, they watered it, they pulled the weeds around the area, and after 6 weeks, there was no sign that anything had been planted. So they all gave up, except for one person. He continued to water the ground, pull the weeds, nurture the soil every single day. A year passed, and then 2 years. Nothing, no indication, no evidence that anything had been planted. His friends and neighbors started to call him a fool. They laughed at him, but he continued on diligently taking care of the ground where the seeds had been planted. After 4 years, his family came to him and said, please, we're the laughing stock of the community. You have to stop the silliness. Come inside. Don't bother with that patch of land anymore. But he persisted. And in the 5th year, tiny little bamboo sprouts came up out of the ground. And in 6 weeks, the bamboo grew 80 feet in the air because he had patience. And he had faith. And he trusted in the process. He believed that if he did what was supposed to be done, at some point in time, the bamboo would grow to the height that it was talked about. Now, in our lives, we all have problems. We all have challenges. Things might not be going right for you at this particular time. You know, maybe you're facing a health challenge. Maybe you're looking for a job and you can't seem to find one. Many of us have been in pursuit of a close, intimate relationship for a long time, and it just doesn't seem to work out. But that doesn't mean it's a stop sign saying that you're not worthy of what you want and that you can't have it. It is simply a sign that says it takes more time for this to come into your life. Now, the reason that bamboo took so long to grow or to sprout is because of its massive height and its weight. It had to establish a root system underground to steady the bamboo when it grew. And it's the same thing with us. If you have a dream or a desire, if you're in pursuit of a goal, if you're wishing to be healed of a particular illness, if you're looking for a relationship, if you want a new job, whatever it might be, just be patient. Because it's not as if nothing is happening. Something is happening. Just because there isn't evidence in the outer world that this isn't going to come into your life doesn't mean that it isn't. It simply means that you are being prepared for when it does come into your life. It simply means that you're trying things and learning what doesn't work, and you're pursuing new things that you hope will work. It just takes patience. We all need to slow down a little bit. Be easy. Take it easy. Be patient. And be persistent. And life becomes so much easier when we do that. Now, I can't tell you how to exercise patience. I know that you have just as much patience as I do or anybody else. We all have exactly the same amount. It's just a matter of becoming aware when you need to be patient and just slowing down. And you exercise your patience, and just like when you exercise your muscles, it becomes stronger, it becomes stronger, it becomes more dominant in your life. And pretty soon you'll discover that you can just patiently move through this life. And when things happen that are not of your liking, or when distractions or disturbances come into your life, you just sit back like a rain cloud that's passing through overhead, and you know that this time too shall pass. Think about that as we go into meditation. Think about the patience you have and the great freedom and opportunity that you have to express that when I move into meditation.